Okay, good evening, everyone. It is 6 o'clock, February 17th, 2021. Time to call the Franklin City Council meeting to order. Ms. Rhodes, roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Austin?
Here.
Mr. Blankenship?
Here.
Mr. Cukin? Ms. Jones?
Here.
Ms. McGinnis?
Here.
Mr. Rynearson?
Here.
Mr. Taylor?
Here.
Sir, you have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Did not see Mr. Ryan Reese here tonight. He usually leads us in the prayer and pledge. Would you do that, Mr. Austin?
Yeah, I'd like to bow our heads, please. Dear Lord, we ask you to please be with us this evening, conducting the business here with the city of Franklin. Lord, we ask you to please be with our first responders, Lord, and our military personnel and families throughout the world. And we ask this in your name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you for attending tonight. Is there any announcements, presentations, public comment? Jenna, please.
Hi everyone, my name is Jenna Newton. I'm here with Will McGinnis and Liam Clark on behalf of the Franklin Energy Leadership Council. Just wanted to share a few updates with you guys about our baby box project. If you're unfamiliar with it, we have been fully funded by the Board of Trustees to put in a baby box at the fire station here in Franklin. And the baby box purpose is just for mothers to have a safe place to anonymously surrender their child. And so other locations around the state of Indiana have been doing this through Safe Haven, and we're really excited to be able to do this. Starting tomorrow, the baby box actually will be brought to Franklin by Safe Haven, so we're really excited that it gets dropped off tomorrow. And then on the 24th, our contractor, Dennis Drake, is going to be putting it in around 8:30 a.m., and it should only take a few hours. And then following that, we are currently working with two bids to decide who will be putting in the alarm system.
So our next steps are to get the word out about our baby box so that people, if they need to use it, they can use it. We're going to be working with, or we thought about working with the FCTV program at the high school to put out sort of a promotional video about it. We're also working on brochures to be able to put around town for people to find out about it. And then following that, we'll have some sort of ribbon cutting ceremony along with a plaque commemorating it.
So we just wanted to thank everybody. We're happy to come and give you an update. Thank you, Mayor Burnett and Matt Cole, for all that you've done for us, and Tara. And if anybody ever has any questions or would like to know more about the Mayor's Youth Council, we meet every other Wednesday, right now virtually, but you are always welcome. And you can always take questions or comments in email, and I'll get back to you. So thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate the update, and I appreciate the work that you guys do and will continue to do, so thank you. And while we're here, Mr. Ron Clark, right?
Liam.
Say something, Liam, you want to say something?
No,
Are you sure?
I think they covered pretty well.
All right, thank you. All right, is there any other announcements, presentations, public comment? Yes. Miss Crystal.
Thank you. There's a sign-in sheet going around. If everyone wouldn't mind signing that, I'll pass that through the audience. We have to do a public hearing if on, you have done it later. But I just need to have that sign-in sheet. It just only means that you were here and you heard my little spiel that I'm going to give later in the meeting. But if you wouldn't mind signing in, I would greatly appreciate it.
So Krista, that's on the Oprah request? Is that it?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other announcements, presentations, public comment? Hearing none, we'll go to consent agenda.
Move to approve consent agenda as written. Second.
Motion and a second by Mr. Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, before we go into old business, we did have a request under new business to move up item number 5 in front of old business because of a scheduling time. Mr. Bill Barrett is here. He's the attorney for legal representation for Police Merit Board. So if you don't mind giving me a motion to move item number 5 under new business up ahead of the old business, and in that same motion, read by title only.
So moved. Second.
Second by Mr. Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, I will go move item number 5 under new business now.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to make sure, we don't have any council members on the phone, do we? We're all Mr. President.
Correct.
Correct, okay, thank you. Just want to make sure we didn't have roll call requirement. Thank you.
Item number 5, new business. Common Council Ordinance number 21-04, amending Ordinance 92-16 to change the administrative and physical administration of the physical agility test requirement for enrollment of the applicant of a member of the Franklin Police Department, and allow the Merit Commission to place a member of the Franklin Police Department, subject to criminal charges, on a paid or unpaid administrative leave of absence. Police Merit Attorney William Barrett and City Attorney William Barrett.
Yes, and as Mr. Mayor stated to the podium, just because we're hearing this first under old business, that it will be for public hearing next meeting, but we wanted to get Bill in out here if we could first. So there will be an actual public hearing at the next meeting under old business.
Yeah, so this is introduction.
That's correct.
Just to clarify. Yeah.
That's correct.
Mr. Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the motion, Mr. Austin. Ms. Gray, thank you for the introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, the police merit system that the city adopted has been around for almost 30 years now. It has been a remarkably stable system that has served the city well across administrations and across many issues and several administrations of chiefs as well. It's been amended once before, substantively a few years ago, arising out of an issue that came up in a disciplinary proceeding. And over the last few years, a few more issues have presented themselves. And I will quickly run through them with you because they're the reason that we're here tonight asking you to amend the ordinance. The commission has spent the last year looking at its processes and looking at its jurisdiction, and has, in conjunction with the chief and discussions with the mayor and Ms. Gray, come up with 5 areas, or coalesced around 5 areas where there's a need for some tweaking of the system. 2 of those areas lie within the purview of the Merit Commission and are not before you tonight. They don't require ordinance change, but 3 of them do. And I'd like to run through those with you. The first is the addition of an additional physical agility test to the new hire process that all applicants go through. By statute, at the end of the process, when someone first applies, there are a lot of applicants, and then we whittle it down through an almost year-long process to a couple of dozen potential applicants who become the new hire list, from which by statute, for the next 2 years, hirings, appointments of merit officers are to be made. The problem that we've experienced is that the physical agility test required by state statute for somebody can be hired, doesn't make allowance for people who take tests well, people who interview well, but people who aren't physically fit to be a police officer. And we have had a number of people who have been on the new hire list because they have made it through the interview, the test, the background check, all of which takes, as I said, close to a year, and a lot of money and a lot of resources, only to find, for some people, repeatedly, same persons, repeatedly, who can't do the requisite number of push-ups, sit-ups, run the 1.5 miles in the amount of time. And so what we would like to do, because that test is statutorily required, we'd like to add the same test to the beginning of the process to say to people, if you want to come and be a police officer in Franklin, right out of the gate, there are requirements you're going to have to meet. And the test that the state requires, we're going to require as well. So that's one. The second issue arises out of some of the things that we saw last summer and what we saw here in Johnson County with the Edinburgh officer who was arrested and charged. Right now, the Merit Commission's authority when an officer is charged with a crime is only to speed up the process of discipline, assuming, and in the case of a criminal charge, I can't imagine the chief wouldn't bring a disciplinary charge before the commission. The commission does not have the ability statutorily to suspend an officer without pay during the pendency of a disciplinary case. State statutes do allow that. It's not part of the merit system, but it is allowed. And so what we're proposing and where the ordinance is drafted is sort of a mix of that other area of law that allows a merit commission to suspend an officer charged with a crime who's facing a disciplinary charge as well without pay during the pendency of that criminal charge. And as I said, when you think back over the events of last summer, the events in Minneapolis with George Floyd, and the terminations of those officers, the prompt terminations, Minnesota has a very different system than we do. But the theme is the same. The idea that if there is a real problem, vesting the discretion to address it quickly in the body that is to deal with those matters is good policy, and so that's what we're asking in that regard. And then finally, there is the question of a lateral hire program. And right now, to come into the department, except in a policy-making level, someone has to come up through the ranks. That's the essence of a merit system. The problem that the department has experienced over the last several years has been some periodic bouts of attrition, some periodic issues, some relating to our new hire list, people who can't pass the physical, some relating to the new hire list in that many jurisdictions in central Indiana have a merit system like ours, a little different perhaps, because they may pick and choose the elements they take, but people will apply all over the donut counties, and they go where they most want to go, of course, and where they get picked first. And so our lists wind up being eviscerated. By statute, the new hire list is to be good for 2 years. We've burned through them in 3 months in the past because people move off or they aren't qualified. One of the ways to address those concerns is to allow a system of hiring experienced officers laterally, just as you would in a business. And so what's before you tonight is not the creation of a lateral system, but your authorization for the commission to suggest or to prepare a proposed lateral system that we would then come back to you to seek authorization for implementation, to try to address these issues. The lateral system, as we have discussed it, the chief and I and the commission and the mayor and Ms. Gray, would retain the elements of objectivity that exist in a merit system so that it wouldn't simply be the ability of someone to say, oh, I want to hire you, come join our police force and come in at a higher level. Rather, it's a way to fill in some of the gaps that appear when the combination of attrition and a narrow new hire list catch up with us as they do. And the chief may have something to add, but that's that's the request. There's 3 substantive areas that we'd like you to amend your ordinance, and I'm happy to take any questions as well.
Mr. Barrett, I'm excited. Just to be quite frank, I've been looking forward to this day. So I think it's way past due. That's going to be modified with the blessing of this council, but I think it's way overdue. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you, Mr. Austin.
Would these changes put us more in line with what other departments do?
It is such a patchwork, because what, I won't bore everyone with the history of the Supreme Court rulings on the merit laws. But municipalities in essence get to pick and choose the things they want out of a merit system. So some of the core ideas of vesting in a neutral third party, the idea of setting standards for hiring, discipline, and promotion are the same across jurisdictions. Some of these things around the edge arise out of an iterative process like we've been through. Indianapolis vests in the chief of police the ability to suspend somebody for 6 months, whether they're charged with a crime or not. That's a very different department. That's 1,500 people, a very different merit system. So it varies quite a bit. Some of
Hey,
it's
Bill, and I know it's introduction, we don't spend a whole lot of time. However, with the lateral hires, what got the chief coming to me and Lynn and Bill about the lateral hires, we will hire somebody, say, like Bill said, somebody wants to get foot in the door, police work, they'll go test everywhere. City of Franklin hires somebody that actually live in Fishers, and the real dream is to be on Fishers Police Department. We'll spend all the money, put them through academies and stuff, and then as soon as another police department, they take them. And we don't have that ability to take somebody from another police department if we wish. And I think that's what we're trying to be able to even up the playing field. That's why we got to this point of looking at changing that.
Yeah, if somebody lives here and they want to come here, but they, they're not going to start down the bottom again.
Right.
Well, bottom of the list.
Yeah.
And just one other thing I want to clarify. They would come here as a merit officer, an officer. They wouldn't come here as a roll right into a sergeant or roll right into a certain position. They, what you said, they would start at the bottom, so.
Beyond that, we don't know exactly what it looks like, because we don't want to put the cart in front of the horse.
Right. Until you all give the blessing to do that process.
And if you have more questions, the next meeting, or you come to the next meeting also, or?
Here at your pleasure.
Okay, so, the next meeting, we think of some questions. We want to keep you for a long time, but we really have a busy agenda tonight.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening.
I never was able to run Bill off before.
How are you, Chief?
Okay, that gets us to old business.
Move to read old business by title only, Mayor.
Second.
And Mrs. McGinnis seconded the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none. Item number 1, Common Council Ordinance number 21-01, an ordinance approving a resolution of the City of Franklin Planning Commission and annexing certain property contiguous to the Franklin corporate limits, be known as Asher Annexation. Senior Planner Joanna Meyer.
Good evening. This is the third meeting regarding the annexation. I believe Max Mauser is on the line.
He's not.
He is not? Okay. That's fine. But it is ready for official action. Public hearing was held at the last meeting. So it's ready for your consideration and action.
And Joanne, refresh my recollection, if this council is so inclined to grant this motion, when will the ordinance become effective?
It will be ran as a legal ad in the paper, and then 30 days after it's ran, it will be recorded, and upon recordation and distribution, it becomes effective.
Thank you.
So roughly 35 to 40 days from today.
Okay, is there any questions? We have already had the public hearing, so is there any questions for hearing none? I think we're ready for action.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve Common Council Ordinance 21-01.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is that you, Chris?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to item number 2. Common Council Ordinance number 21-02, an ordinance approving resolution number 20-28 of the City of Franklin Plan Commission rezoning certain property to industrial light to be known as Masher rezoning. Senior Planner Joanne Myers.
Good evening, this is the companion piece with the master annexation. This is the rezoning from agriculture to industrial light, and it's ready for your consideration and action.
Is it agriculture or agriculture to industrial light?
Yes.
Yes. If you recall, we had the public hearing on this one last, but we tabled it, because it was essentially rezoning it until we got into the city. I'm sorry.
And we are also ready for actions if there's not any questions for Ms. Myers.
I move to approve Common Council Ordinance 21-02.
Second.
Let me give that a second to Sean. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, thank you. Okay, next item, number 3, Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 21-02, authorizing an additional appropriation for non-taxing support funds tabled from previous meeting for the Treasurer January.
Yes, sir. As you recall, this is the third time that we have talked about the next several appropriations. Last meeting, we were not able to approve them because of the time frame between meetings. Didn't have enough to advertise them. So tonight, with your approval, these are the non-tax supported funds that we have, and they have to be appropriated each year. So with your approval,
And, okay, tonight is public hearing. So is there anybody in the public have any questions? Please feel free. And it's basically what it is. It's non-tax supported funds that come in, donations or whatever, that we get appropriated, so departments can use those donations.
You got our 2 extra days back, Jane, since we lost 2 the last time. Now we got our 2 days back. We have 2 extra days.
Okay, hearing nothing with the public hearing, no questions, I'll close the public hearing. Does anybody on council have any more questions for Ms. Rhodes or myself? Hearing none, I think we're ready for motion.
Move to approve Common Council Budgetary Ordinance 21-02.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mrs. Jones was on the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we'll go to item number 4. Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 21-03, an additional appropriation for the CCI funds, supplies $220,000, services $300,000, $35,000, capital $400,000, series $20,000 for a total of $75,000, tabled from the previous meeting, Clerk Treasurer Jane Rhodes.
correct. This, if you recall, the CCI fund and the next one, the CCD, were omitted on our annual budget. And so they were not approved as a group when we did our budget, so we're having to approve the money to appropriate.
So it was, I want to kind of talk about that a little bit.
Right.
It was talked about on our budget with all the city council, this is what we approved, but it was a
Omitted.
glitch. It was a glitch with the,
Right, when we sent the budget in, unfortunately, it didn't pull them over into the right category, so therefore it was left blank. We had the money, it was all budgeted.
Right, so what I'm saying is, it's not new money being budgeted.
No, sir.
The Gateway already, DLT, they
Yeah.
already know this is there, we're just simply
Appropriate.
ratifying. Yeah, that's. This is a public hearing, so if there's any questions from the public on what I just tried to explain, and Ms. Rhodes just tried to explain, feel free to ask. Hearing none, we will close the public hearing. Does the council have any more questions for Ms. Rhodes?
Mayor, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Jones. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to item number 5, Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 21-4-04, an additional appropriation CDCD fund, capital 400, 300,000, tabled from the previous meeting, Clerk Treasurer Jane Rhodes, and this is the same as the past, the other one that you just mentioned. So this is also a public hearing. Is there any questions or comments?
I don't think the public gets excited about this budgetary ordinance. I don't see a lot of excitement.
Okay, hearing none, we will close the public hearing. Does the council have any more? If not, we'll be ready for a motion.
Move to approve common council budgetary ordinance 21-4.
Second.
Second by Mr. Austin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to item number 6. Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 21-05, additional appropriation, general fund 101 services, services 390,000, capital 400, 1,024,000 for a total of 1,114,000 tabled from previous meetings. This is one that I presented. If you remember 2 meetings ago, I brought it forward of money that was left over from last year's budget that goes into the general fund. And I brought forward a list of, I gave all the council a list of projects that we wanted to do and this year. And the funding, you can't get right, time you go bid everything, you can't get right to the penny. So this is all estimates. So like we talked before, there'll be money left over this year, it'll be raked over next year also. And we did put some of the money that was left over into a rainy day fund, where we have $4.5 million in our rainy day fund, or a rainy day, or snowy day, how about that? So, this is a public hearing. Does anybody want to make any comments or ask any questions on this proposal?
It's a big number.
Yeah. And this is for, just real quick, street paving, alley paving, Arts District work, resurface Upper Shelbyville Road, crack seal, rejuvenate the streets with street striping, seal coating, fixing Main and Jefferson Wall, sidewalk from Park Avenue to the college, sidewalk on Hospital Road, expanding on the sidewalk program, some concrete patching in subdivisions that have concrete streets, fixing the railroad closures on Adams Street, Forsyth Street also by the college, by the trail, putting up another signal for pedestrian, some demolishing building in the park, seal coating the trails, South Main Street Monument, trash enclosure at Artcraft Alley, resurface State Street, which is over US 31, first phase of Jim Black Road, roundabout at Arvin's. So there's a lot of things that we're putting in to use the money for. So is there? Did I already open it up to public
I
hearing?
think you did ready to see that, yes.
Everybody's saying, yeah. Okay, we'll close the public hearing on that. No, I'll open it back up. Does anybody have anything they want to say on this, the work we're trying to do? Okay, I will close the public hearing. Somebody trying to get on? Great. Is there any questions from the council?
No.
Okay, hearing none.
I'll move to approve common council budgetary ordinance number 21-05.
Second by Mr. Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none. On the next item, Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 21-06, additional appropriation NVH restricted funds, 203 capital, to capital 400.
Welcome to the conference center. Please enter your conference ID and press the pound key. Please record your name after the tone and press the pound key. Just join the conference.
Okay, so I'll go back and I'll say it again. We're on Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 21-06, an additional appropriation NVH restricted fund 203 capital 400 series $291,944 tabled from the previous meeting. This goes into the restricted funds for road only.
You are the last party in the conference.
Isn't technology now?
Okay. So,
You're at 291,000 there.
yeah,
For new phone system.
and this was put there, also, that is a matching, that's matching a grant, correct? Mark?
I'm pretty sure it's part
That,
of it.
that's for the, which project is it? I think that was for,
State
Forest Road, wasn't it?
Forest Road or State Street. It's for pavement work that when it's in the NVH restricted, it has to be used for pavement only. So that's why we put it in the restricted funds.
And then you all have to appropriate, that's what we're doing, we have all this money, but we have to appropriate it specifically for the things that we have to do. So that's why we're going through these various ordinances.
So since we was real clear with that, we'll open this up to public hearing. Is there any questions that you want to ask? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. And the council have any more questions? If not, we're ready for action.
I make a motion to approve Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 21-06.
Second.
Second by Mrs. McGinnis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, we will go to the next item. Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 21-07, an additional appropriation ordinance grants 230 supplies, 200 in the amount of $656.80. Clerk Treasurer James Rhodes. This was introduced last meeting and we had a public hearing.
And I will defer to Street Commissioner Jones.
Hi,
Mr. Jones?
how are you? If you recall, this was a grant we received from IPEP for the purchase of some safety harnesses for our arborist crew and also some additional safety cones to go on their forestry truck. So that's what this is, if you recall from last meeting.
We've already received a grant, haven't we?
We have,
Correct?
Yes.
yes,
We used to have authorized expenditure.
correct.
Okay, so I think we already did the public hearing, but if not, I'll go ahead and open it back up for a public hearing for this one off as well. So is there anyone have any questions on the $600 worth of lease?
This is the hardest.
This is the harnesses and cones.
All right, so I'll back.
Chips on boots.
Okay, so the public hearing is closed. Is there any other questions from the council? If not, we're ready for action.
Move to approve budgetary ordinance 21-07.
Second.
Second by Mr. Reiners. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none. I will go to the next item. Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 21-08, an additional appropriate appropriation ordinance grants 230 supplies 200 in the amount of $1,600. Mr. Chip Warner, it does say Jane Rhodes, but she's going to defer to you.
Thank you, Jane. Appreciate it. This has got to do, we talked last time, this is the $1,600 IPF grant for supplement the purchase of work boots for parks, DPW, and street department.
Okay, I think we also had a public hearing, but we'll open it up again just in case we didn't. Any questions for Mr. Warner? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Does the council have any questions for Chip? If not, we're ready for action.
Move to approve common council budgetary ordinance 21-08.
Second.
I'll give that second to Mr. Austin. He was the last one. Not sure he was first, but he was the last. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, now we'll go into new business.
Need to read new business by title only here.
Second.
Second by Sean, Mr. Taylor. Okay, item number one, all those in favor of reading by title only?
Second.
Aye. Yeah. All those in favor of reading new business by title only?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Wow.
That was painful.
Okay. Yeah, it's been long. Yeah. Okay, item number one, under new business, common council resolution number 21-07, declaratory resolution designating an economic revitalization area for the Franklin Tech Park Community Development Specialist, Dana Mossy.
Yes, good evening. I have before you tonight the case 2021-03 from the EDC. This is the Franklin Tech Park. Mac Knott is with us this evening as well. Mac is looking to expand the Ishin building. He is looking to take that from 146,000 square feet to 153,000 square feet for Ishin to expand into that facility. They will be increasing the number of jobs as well. They'll be bringing an additional 20 employees into that facility. We will next week, or the next meeting, we will have the abatement request, but first we have to do an economic revitalization agreement. The Franklin Tech Park had an economic revitalization agreement that unfortunately expired. So it expired in 2017, so we have to do a new economic revitalization agreement, economic revitalization area, I can't talk either tonight, for that park in order to do the expansion. So this is the first part of that. If you have any questions about the overall project as well, again, Mr. McDonald is here if you have any questions with him. If not, we can move on with the ERA.
Do you recall, abatements have to be in economic revitalization areas, and so we must pass a resolution which you can act upon tonight, designating this as an economic revitalization area, since the opening expired. And then the next meeting, we would have a confirming resolution, because that allows people to come in and have any questions about it. Since we've designated the area, then there'll be a confirming resolution. At that point in time, we can entertain the abatement request.
And then we'll also have a public hearing, which has already been taken care of.
Correct.
Notice. Or necessary.
So, we need to open this one up for public hearing.
No, we will have the public hearing at the next council meeting.
Yeah.
When
So
we do
we're
the
not-
confirming. This one is strictly.
Right. Yeah, we've never, it's not required to have a public hearing. Mayor, we've always asked, does anybody have any questions, and because the public's here. But we passed a resolution saying we are going to make this an economic revitalization area, ERA. And that resolution gets passed tonight. And then it is set for a public hearing for anybody to come in and say, no, it shouldn't be an economic revitalization area. Generally, no one does. And then once we confirm it at our next meeting, then we have a public hearing on the abatement requests as well. Right, is that clear as mud?
I will be bringing before you on the March 1st meeting, we will have a tax abatement request for the real and personal property at that time.
Okay, is there any other questions from the council? If not, I think we're ready for action then.
Move to approve common council resolution number 21-07.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Jones. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we will go on to the next item.
And I just wanted to clarify, once we approve that resolution, now it allows Dana to advertise so that people can come in and have that here. So that's going to start with this first process.
Makes sense. Okay, Common Council Resolution number 21-11, a resolution granting tax abatement for Patch on Windmill Way, LLC, real property. And Common Council Resolution number 21-12, a resolution granting tax abatement for G&H Wire, personal property, community development specialist Dana Moss.
Very excited about this project coming before you this evening. If you are aware, 40 Linville Way is our Franklin Shell building. That was a public-private partnership between the RDC, Linville Farms, and the city of Franklin, Marathon Construction. So we have been working diligently trying to sell that building for quite some time. We now do have a party, Patch Development, that has come up with working with Don Tribeck, who is here tonight as our broker, for an offer for that building, pending a lease with G&H Wire. G&H is a current Franklin company. They are located on Graham Road. They are running out of space, need to expand. So they have expressed interest in the Shell building. So we have spent several months working with them to come up with this agreement and lease opportunity for them to come in and to have the building. This is already in an ERA, so we do not have that step. So that's why we are going directly to the tax abatement request tonight. The tax abatements were heard by the EDC last week. They are bringing a recommendation to you for approval for a real property abatement for Patch that is the standard tax abatement schedule, with a 2% economic development fee and an alternate abatement schedule for the personal property. That will also be for 10 years with a 5% economic development fee that the company will pay. They will be increasing their employees by over 116. They will be expanding and growing, as I said, into this building. Jacob Everett is their representative, and Charlie, I apologize, Charlie, I don't have your last name. One-Wash. Charlie is here tonight from the company. If you guys want to just come up and just tell them just really briefly what you're going to be doing here.
Yeah, Jacob Everett, I'm an advisor to the company, and appreciate you having us here tonight. This is a very competitive process. We advised G&H on this decision over the course of 5 or 6 months now, and appreciate the effort of the mayor and his team in helping us get to a good decision to keep these folks in Franklin. I know they're excited about the opportunity to grow.
Yep. Charlie Winlock, and likewise, I'd like to thank the mayor and the council for consideration for our proposal. We're tremendously excited about the growth opportunities that we have in front of us as our organization, and look forward to your approval to move forward and continue to grow our business here in Franklin. So thank you.
Thank you. If I'm just real quick, with the Shell building, all these pieces have to fall into place with tax abatements. This is 2 different tax abatements that we're looking at, and it's one for Patch on the building, for the building. And Dana, do you want to explain what's already there with tax abatements and what all these tax abatements we're talking about means?
So currently, when the RDC completed this project, we did apply to the EDC and your body and received a tax abatement, which I know sounds strange for the RDC to receive a tax abatement, but we did that because on that shell of that building, had we not put a tax abatement in there, that would not be something that this company could receive the benefit from. So there is currently a 10-year standard tax abatement on the shell, on that portion of the building. This real property abatement that you have before you tonight will be for the build out. So we'll have 2 tax abatements running simultaneously, one to pay for the shell, one to pay for the build out. If this was a building that was coming on from scratch, that they were building themselves, it would all be one thing. You wouldn't have these 2 separate. But because we have the 2 separate pieces, that's why there's going to be 2 separate abatements running concurrently. So there will be the real property currently for the shell, there will be the real property if you so choose tonight, for the build-out, and then there will be the personal property, and that will be for G&H.
Okay. So tonight this is also a public hearing.
Correct.
So if we have any questions from the audience or the audience first, I'm really excited about G&H staying in Franklin, knowing the 20+ hour jobs. I mean, it's pretty exciting for you to be expanding here. I appreciate it. So is there any questions from the public? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Does the council have any other questions or
Any questions from the company about their project? They do pay excellent wages. They're $27. So our average wage here in the county is $19.46. So that's really exciting to hear something that well.
I want to know how they make those rubber bands so small.
Charlie, how do you make those rubber bands so small?
We cut a lot of them every day.
Wow.
I found 2 on my kitchen floor yesterday.
So the approval on this would be subject to all of the pieces coming together.
This is part of a number of pieces that are into place. So yes, the sale of the Shell building is subject to the lease with G&H. So that's why this is kind of all going in together. As Jacob said, this was a very competitive project. They were looking at several sites, several different locations. We had to be very aggressive with our incentives to help them to make sure that they stay here in the city because we were a little bit higher tax rate. We were just trying to help with things. So that's why you have the schedules before you that you do. That's why we're working through these things. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of stacking pieces.
And I just want to add that the whole time working with G&H and working with Patch, there was no kind of threats, if you don't do this, we're going to go somewhere else.
Right.
So from day one, it was, we want to be in Franklin, and how are you going to help sell this to our board? So that is where we got, and I appreciate the fact of that too, that right up front, we want to be here, help us get here. So that was good to know.
You know, 116 additional jobs is huge, you know, paying $25 an hour. I think to me that's the key to the whole project, the additional employees.
So if this all goes through a tentative closing, do we have a tentative closing time frame yet?
I think we figured out we're probably looking somewhere in the neighborhood of 45 to 60 days.
But I don't think, Councilman Jones, I don't think we need to pass this motion or deny it based on it.
Absolutely.
Subject to, I mean,
No,
it's ready for
absolutely.
action. It's not conditional.
Yeah.
So the first one you'd be, if no more questions, you would need resolution number 21-11.
Yes, that's the real property.
Yeah, that would be the first one, that is for Patch. So let's, if you don't mind, do them separate.
Yes.
And if there's no more questions, we're ready for action.
Make the motion to approve common council resolution number 21-11. Second.
Second by Mr. Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Move to approve common council resolution number 21-12.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on 21-12. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, thank you. Now, I think that stops all the hurdles.
I think so. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go, the next item, we move, so we'll go to the last item, which is introduction, it's not the last item. We got another item, see that with.
Number 3.
There we go. Common Council budgetary ordinance number 2109, and additional appropriations, grants, federal supplies, in the amount of $7,156. Chief Hopkins.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a Burn Jack grant. It's a justice grant that's awarded every year. It's managed by J.C. Grable, agreeing with PD. We are a partial recipient of that grant. This was something that should have probably taken place couple months back, COVID hit, and so it really it had an impact on this, and Jane might be able to elaborate on that. We've been waiting on this money to come for some time. We're just asking for that $7,156 to finally be appropriated, so I know it's an introduction only.
Yeah, it's introduction only.
Yep.
So we'll do, it's introduction tonight, we'll do the public hearing and take action on next meeting. Are there any questions anybody has for Chief while he's standing here? Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Next one, Common Council Ordinance number 21-03, an ordinance rezoning certain property to RS2 residential suburban 2 with commitments to be known as Blackstone Properties rezoning, senior planner Joanna Myers. And this is also an introduction only.
Correct. Yes. So the request before you is to rezone approximately 57 acres from RS1 to RS2. The property is located west of Cumberland Trails and Cumberland Trace and is north of Westview Drive. It is not contiguous to Westview Drive. It is actually further north than that. This was heard at the January 19th, 2021 Plan Commission meeting. They have forwarded an unfavorable recommendation to City Council by a vote of 6-5. Included in your packet is a number of items. I know this is a little bit more substantial information than has been provided in the past. One of the reasons is that it was actually before the Plan Commission in the December meeting and was continued due to a lack of official action. So there are actually 2 staff reports in here. The first one was from December, the second one was from January. Anything that was revised in that staff report between the 2 meetings is highlighted in yellow. Also included in this packet for you is all the exhibits that have been provided by both the petitioner and concerned citizens. And then also a copy of the official minutes of the December meeting and the draft minutes from the January meeting. Dane Woltman is here with Blackstone Properties, LLC. They are the petitioner. And it is set for introduction this evening with public hearing to be held March 1st.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I might too. I know that there were some concerned citizens that appeared both at the Planning Commission, and they were advised that this was not a public hearing, that there will be a public hearing at our next meeting when all the presentations can be made for everybody. And so that's why they're not here tonight. I don't want you to think that they're not concerned citizens. I do think that there were emails that perhaps were sent to council members.
There were.
And I think it appropriate for me to, I think there's a bit of confusion if you're not familiar with this process. Even if you are familiar with this process, it can be confusing. And I want to clarify for the council members why the concerned citizens may be a bit confused. The way this process works is someone comes in to ask the city to pass an ordinance to amend our zoning maps. And then the process is that it goes to the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission conducts public hearing, and then they make a recommendation to you. So what is before you is an ordinance based upon the request to rezone the rezoning maps. You don't pass an ordinance not to have an ordinance, okay? So what the ordinance before you asked for a rezoning, and you either voted yes or you voted no. And so I think the perhaps the email sent to you was as if we were presupposing what was going to occur. It has to be that way because you don't pass an ordinance to say we don't want an ordinance. So that is what is before you. The next meeting will be a public hearing. The petitioner will be here to present their case. I'm certain the concerned citizens will be here to present what their concerns are, and official action will be taken by you to either grant the ordinance as presented or deny the ordinance as presented. So I hope that clarifies why some confusion, makes it a little more difficult, rather than have an ordinance that says we don't want an ordinance. Does that make sense? Can I answer any technical questions? Okay. We'll have a hearing next meeting.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Joy. Okay, last item, public hearing for COVID-19 response phase 3 grant application, Community Development Director, Mr. Lindsay. Just as that.
No, right there.
Oh, thanks. The mask, I love it.
Thank you. Krista Linke, I'm the Community Development Director, and we are required by the Office of Community and Rural Affairs to conduct a public hearing. This process, we went through this process in April of 2020 when we applied for the same program. We did receive $200,000, and that was the first round of funding. And the Franklin Development Corporation actually matched that with $50,000, so we had a total of $250,000. This round, this is actually the third round, and when they announced this round, I contacted them to see if we could reapply, and they encouraged us to reapply. There was nothing preventing us from reapplying. And so for this round, our letter of intent was for the full $250,000. There is no match required, and so this was handled a little bit differently where they chose certain applicants and invited them to submit a full application. And so we were invited to submit a full application. So this hearing is part of that process, and then at your next meeting, you will have a resolution, Resolution 21-13, that will authorize me to submit a formal application. You have a draft of the application attached to the agenda, so if you have any questions about that, but mainly what I need to say is that the funds will be used to provide small businesses with grants to retain low to moderate income jobs. And so the total amount requested is $250,000, and 51% of those jobs have to be low to moderate income. So that's $127,500. That would be for the retention of low to moderate income jobs. And so we do require applicants to fill out for each employee a household income survey. So basically it has the employee's name, how many people are in their household, and do they make more, higher or lower than what the median household income is. And those are HUD guidelines. And so it's not the exact dollar amount, they just check above or below. And then that way we can do the calculation. And for the first round of funding, we had, it was 57% of the jobs were low to moderate income, so we were well above the 51%. But we have to take that into consideration with the applications that we actually do fund, because that is the main criteria of this grant process. So,
Krista, wasn't it 41 businesses on the first round that got assistance?
I think 41 applied. I think we ended up funding 37.
37, okay.
And this round will be a little bit different. Last time it was 15 or fewer employees that were eligible, and the maximum grant amount was $7,500. And this round, they've changed that a little bit. You can have 25 or fewer employees, and then a maximum amount of $25,000. And so they just have to show that it's not any kind of duplication of benefits. So like the PPE that everyone's heard about, if they receive money from that, they can't use these grant funds. They can't dump it, basically. So there is documentation that's required for that. I was surprised at the number of businesses that were, because a lot of part-time employees, a lot of restaurants and things like that, they had more than 15 employees, which eliminated a lot. So I expect with this round we'll get some new applicants if we're awarded the funds.
Chris, there are companies that applied and did benefit from the first round.
They would still be eligible.
Still be eligible.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And what they told me is that nobody back in April of last year expected this to go on for so long, and really it was up to 3 months of operating expenses. We're almost at a year. So if they needed another 3 months of operating expenses, that's what this is here to do to help
Chris,
retain those jobs.
what kind of guidelines, date, what kind of timeline are we looking at as far as if we happen to approve the process and then be granted these dollar amounts?
So our application is due by March 11th, which, once we have that resolution at the March 1st meeting, the application will be ready and it'll be submitted. And then they'll make the announcements on April 15th.
Because, you know, we have a lot of small businesses are hurting.
Yeah, and so it was a bit of a waiting game last time, you know, where we were waiting for the funds. We went ahead and accepted applications. We have a panel that reviews the applications. And then those awards were announced, but we couldn't release the funds until we actually had the funds from Okra. So last time, I think applications were due in May and funds were released beginning of July. So it was about a month and a half turnaround.
And how long must the employees be retained?
1 year.
So is there a clawback if they take the money and they go do it?
There's a reporting that I have to do on behalf of the city, but there isn't, they just want to document that. So say somebody, you know, especially in the restaurant industry, if they need to go find another job somewhere else, as long as it doesn't have to be the same employee, but it has to be that position, which I think makes a difference.
So does the money go to the employer or go to the employee?
It goes to the employer to pay salaries. To pay salaries, but it can also be to cover any kind of operating expenses to keep the business open so that the employees have jobs.
And if they fail to stay open for a year?
I will find that out in a year. Which I'm sure that is going to be an issue across the state. That is the intent, is to retain the jobs.
I just worry my protect the city legal pad. We would not be responsible.
We are not, no. Okay. They're just a reporting. They want to see how it turned out.
And there's no action taken, this is just a public hearing, and people signed in tonight?
Yeah, I passed the sign-in sheet around just to show, you know, that there is opportunity. Anyone in the audience can ask questions about the process.
So does anybody have any questions? We'll open it up for public hearing at this time. Mr. Clark, how about you, the Mayor's Youth Council? Any questions?
No, I think he covered it pretty well.
Like that.
Chris, I do have, is there anything that Okra expects of us to sign?
Yes, there will be the same documents that you loved so much last time.
And the sooner we have that would be,
yeah,
that'd be great.
Well, we haven't been awarded the funds yet, but hopefully we will be, and
it'd just be nice if they were actually applicable to what they were doing, so
yeah.
it's nice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Krista. Okay, there isn't any other business, and you know what, we've been just a little bit over an hour, and we have covered a lot of ground, so, Mr. Austin, council.
Hey, shout out to our street department. Great job keeping our streets clean, correct. Yeah, it's amazing work you guys have done. Make sure you let the guys know.
I appreciate it. I would be remiss if I didn't thank Sally and Chip as well. Of course. It's been a team effort. It's all hands on deck, so appreciate that. But want to publicly thank these two as well because they provided a lot of employees to help us work shifts and load snow out of downtown, a lot of things. So it's been a great effort. But thank you, Mr. Austin.
Welcome. Anything else, Mr. Austin? Mr. Blankenship?
No comments, man.
Okay, Mr. Clark, we're going alphabetical order. You got anything you want to add tonight?
No, I think that's...
And I do appreciate our Mayor's Youth Council being represented at the council meeting, and I'm sure that all of you guys do too, so it makes us feel a lot younger. Okay. Mr. Dukin's not here. Mrs. Jones?
I'm good, thank you.
Mrs. McGinnis?
I would just echo what Mr. Austin said. Thank you.
Mr. Reinerson?
No comments.
Mr. Taylor?
Nothing tonight, sir.
Mrs. Rhodes?
Nothing, sir.
Mrs. Gray?
Very, very briefly, the council may recall, it's probably close to 9 months or a year ago, where the council saw fit to rezone the property out by